Hello beautiful people, happy summer solstice. So today we have Sun transiting into the sign of Cancer, where it will remain until 23rd of July, where it will move into the sign of Leo. And the interesting factor is that the ruler of Cancer, where Sun will be at home for these upcoming months, the ruler moon was actually and it still is, in the sign of Leo today, which is interesting because that's where Sun will be moving next month. And actually one important thing to mention, before Sun moved into the sign of Cancer, on its 29 degrees of Gemini, it made exact inconjunction with Pluto, who is on a 29 degrees of Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. And at the same time, Saturn, that is in Pisces, currently retrograde, both Pluto and Saturn are retrograde. Saturn was actually in conjunction with Moon, and Moon being in Leo. Saturn is currently being in the sign of Pisces. So this is very interesting because we can see already some repeating themes going on here. But actually, there is another thing that I want to mention before I get into energetical interpretation of today, and that's what else is going on in the sky. So today we have an exact sextile between Mercury in Gemini and Mars in Leo. That's on 18 degrees and 40 minutes. And also Mercury is sextiling Chiron later on 19 degrees and 32 minutes. And tomorrow Mars will be trining Chiron, and on June 29th, so just over a week from now, also Venus will be trining Chiron. So this is very positive because we have the Leo, which is the fiery energy, and the fiery energy of the Aries going on there, supporting each other. And also this is telling us again that this collective wounding needs to be healed, and that's it with regards to this Aries archetype, which is the inability to give ourselves the permission to start walking in the new direction that is in alignment with ourselves without feeling guilty and ashamed for it. And another important things to mention is that only next month on July 17th we'll have the nodal shift. The nodes will move into the sign of Aries and Libra. The rulers will remain Mars and Venus. Well, Mars being the traditional ruler, actually currently where the south node is in Scorpio, it's being ruled by Pluto as a modern ruler, but the traditional is Mars, and the role will be reversed. So from July onwards, for the next year and a half, the north node will be ruled by Mars, which is telling us about this need for taking an action because it's a fiery energy, and the ruler of the south node will be Venus. So until July 17th, Venus was the ruler of the north node, and then she will be taking the back place. So the yin will be taking over the yang, right? And we have a lot of retrogrades. So currently, as we know, Pluto is already in retrograde together with Saturn, who is the ruler of Pluto at the moment. And then this will continue. So on the 1st of July, Neptune will go into retrograde. It will station retrograde, and that will be until December 6th. Venus will station retrograde until July 23rd, which is exactly the day when Pluto will square the nodes exactly. There will be the exact square from Pluto to the nodes, resolution being the south node. At the time, already the south node will be ruled by Venus. So it's interesting that on the same day, Venus will be stationing to go retrograde, and she will actually be trining the north node in Aries, because she will be already on almost 29 degrees, 28 degrees, 36 minutes. And Venus will remain retrograde until September 4th. And then subsequently on the same day we have Chiron stationing the retrograde on July 23rd, and it will be in trine with Mercury, and this will be until 27th of December, so until end of the year. Also, our good friend Mercury will be stationed in retrograde on August 23rd. That will be until September 15th. Uranus will be the next one. Uranus will be stationed in retrograde on August 29th, and that will be until actually 28th of January. And by that point, Pluto will be again back in the sign of Aquarius. It will move there on the 22nd of January. So by the time Uranus will station direct, it will become again a ruler. It will be a ruler of Pluto. And then we have Jupiter, the last one of the pack. Jupiter will station retrograde on September 4th, and it will remain retrograde until the last day of the year, which is December 31st. And it will station retrograde conjuncting Moon and trine Mercury. And actually Mercury will be in a trine with Uranus when it's stationed retrograde on the 23rd of August. And when Uranus himself stationed retrograde on the 29th of August, it will be also trine in Mercury. So we have a lot of supporting aspects, which are again telling us about this energy of Gemini, which is a very needed for these times of transformation we are experiencing at the moment, which is this curiosity, flexibility, open-mindedness, and ability to see the reality from different angles, to accept the polarity and duality of the reality we live in. A lot of reality is going on there. But actually, okay, guys, so this is all this astrological jargon going on here. We know that we had this new moon in Gemini only last weekend, so a few days ago. Some of these energies are still active, so there is a lot of that going on in the sky. If you want to know more about the energies of the new moon, you can watch my previous video, which I posted last weekend. So that's about these energies. But let's dive into the energy of this solstice that we're tapping into. So as we know, of course, the sun is moving into the sign of Cancer. Now, what is Cancer about? From the traditional astrology, Cancer represents our home, it represents our family, our ancestor line, our traditions, wherever you're coming from. But on the evolutionary astrology spectrum, Cancer also represents our ego identity. So who we think we are, how do we identify ourselves in this physical form? Because as we know, we are the house for the spirit. Because when we are in a spirit form, we don't have a name, we don't have a passport, we don't have a bank account, we don't have any of these labels which we have when we are in a physical reality. So when we incarnated into physical human form, our body will become our home, is the home for our spirit. So Cancer on a much deeper spectrum is actually home for our spirit, for our spirit self, for our higher self. And this is the connection with yourself is either what gives you the sense of safety and security from this point of view, and is also how you identify yourself. And also, as we know, that there are a lot of labels, a lot of identities which we no longer resonate with. They are the pattern of the past. Like maybe the ways that we identified ourselves in the past, it's not who we are anymore, because moon, as we know, is continuously moving. It goes around the entire zodiac in 28.5 days. And that is helping us to create the structure and the definition of our reality. That's why moon has its cycle 28.5 days, and Saturn, which is in opposition, Capricorn is in opposition with Cancer. So Cancer is our home for the spirit, our identity, our sense of safety and security within oneself. And then this Saturn, which is in opposition, Capricorn, it makes it happen for us. So it's literally the master manifester, and it manifests our reality from the formless into the form, into manifestation. So the cycle of Saturn is 28.5 years, and these two guys are supporting each other. You know, the moon, the way we identify ourselves in this reality and how that's continuously changing is also helping us to shape our external world, our external reality that we are living in. So what I wanted to talk about here, because as I said, today Sun moving into the sign of Cancer for the next month, we might be much more sensitive when it comes to who we are. You know, it might be also sensitivity with regards to where we came from. Do we still resonate with that? It could be our, origins, our, like I said, ancestor line perhaps, or just how we identified ourselves in the past. Also, it's a time for emotional reconnection, connecting with ourselves. Also today, the moon being in a sign of Leo, and it's later on connecting with Venus, and tomorrow is going to conjunct Mars. This is again telling us that in order for us to follow this new path, create this new reality for ourselves, where we feel we are living the life of purpose and meaning, just as was the theme of the past new moon, the new moon in Gemini squared by Neptune. We need to kind of know who we are. We need to know ourselves. And the only way we're going to know that, we're going to reconnect with ourselves. We need to feel into who we actually are. And that's why the North Node has been in the sign of Taurus for all this time, because Taurus in the natural zodiac, it's in sextile with Cancer. So actually knowing yourself, like reconnecting with your body, knowing your needs, knowing your values, it's helping you to realize who you are. And then when you know who you are, then you can follow your purpose, because the Cancer is followed by the sign of Leo, and that is then helping us to it's helping us to then actualize into the society in the way that is authentic for us, because again, then the Leo is in sextile with Libra, right? So we have all these connections going on here. But if we don't know who we are, and if we are trying to cling on these past identities, that's why we had this moon in conjunction with Saturn, because this is telling us that in order for us to have this identity which is able to follow its purpose, again, we need to let the past go. We need to define what it is that no longer holds a meaning for us, and we need to let go. We need to allow it to dissolve, to create space for something new. And also, as I mentioned in my past video, Saturn, now being retrograde, is coming closer and closer into the trine. I mean, it's already within the degree trine, it's still within the degree trine with the South Node, which is the resolution to the square made by Pluto, ruled by Saturn. And this is again, the South Node is being in Scorpio, so it's telling us about what is it connected to our past that is still making us disempowered, that holds the power is held by someone else. So the other thing that I wanted to, because actually this in conjunction, they have either the flavor of Virgo or of Scorpio, and one is talking about the guilt and shame, and one is talking about this disempowerment. And this guilt and shame theme is the theme that I am coming across a lot in my readings. I feel so many repeated themes, especially since this new moon in Gemini, which was being squared by Neptune. And what I forgot to mention in my long video about that was that this is a last quarter square, which is called the crisis in consciousness, and it's all about this need for liberation, about this Uranian archetype. And we were tapping into this Aquarian Uranian archetype even by the degree of this last new moon, which was in the Aquarian Decan, which is again telling us about this need for liberation. And to me, all these energies that are happening in the sky, including all these aspects to Chiron, positive aspects to Chiron by the personal planets, this is actually telling us that there is really this necessity for us to give ourselves permission to start some completely new cycles that is a representation of who we are becoming and who we want to be, rather than a copy-paste of the past. Because the repeating theme I want to talk about with regards to the clients I'm doing the reading for is this continuous feeling of this guilt and shame, which has been passed on to us from previous generation, because this is the conditioning of the Pisces age, of these 2000 years of Pisces age, which we are now coming out of, but we have the full understanding of what that was like, whereas we are just entering into this age of Aquarius, and this is a very new energy for us. That's why there is so much Aries energies, so many new cycles, so many new cycles between planets, also with this Jupiter and North Node, which is our perception of reality. We have this new phase. There were so many new phases during this new moon, also some balsamic phase, but a lot of new phases, which is just telling us how this past and future are kind of happening simultaneously, where we are, thanks to Pluto already being in Aquarius for these 3 months, we already have like a one foot wanting to go into the future, but there is all this that still needs to be resolved. And I feel that this month, when Sun is in the sign of Cancer, and Cancer being this water sign, this is the opportunity to reconnect with ourselves and give ourselves this permission to feel into who we actually are, and who we no longer are. Also, this is something that became initiated when Mars was going through the sign of Cancer, and then Venus was going through the sign of Cancer, teaching us about our needs with regards to our, emotional needs with regards to ourselves. And also now Sun being in the sign of Cancer is shining light onto that, like who we are, what is our identity, and who we no longer want to be, that we want to let go of, and who he has to become in order to start this new cycle, to follow our destiny. And there was this in conjunction with Saturn in Pisces, Saturn retrograde in Pisces from Moon, the ruler of Cancer, which is telling us that in order to start this new chapter on our life, we need to let go of the old, because we cannot be the old person having the past, well, we cannot be the old person having a different experience, because being the same way, we're just going to attract the same experiences. It's like a copy and paste. So in order to create that different life that we want for ourselves, that is more in alignment with our values, which is something that we are still figuring out, a lot of us, we don't know what we actually want. There is this necessity to be flexible and open-minded and allowing the old to be let go of, because also with this Gemini, it represents the polarity and duality of this reality, but it's also the messenger that is bringing us messages from the other side, from the other astral, from the other aspects of reality, which is the majority of what there is. We just can't see it. And is this understanding that there is so much that we cannot see, and everything has positive and negatives, like that. It just literally depends on our perception, which is why now Jupiter is going through the sign of Taurus, just as Mercury has been for 2.5 months with its retrograde. And now Jupiter is there for a year, and is going to conjunct, it already conjuncted North Node, and is going to conjunct Uranus during its transit that's going to take place in April next year. So again, going into these themes that's coming up is this, to me it feels that a lot of us, I would say majority of humanity, also because of this North Node just about to move into the sign of Aries, which represents new beginning, majority of people are on a precipice of change, but there is this insecurity connected to Aries archetypes, because it's something that we haven't experienced, and the Chiron is in the sign of Aries, which is again telling us that the wounding is in this fear of trying something that has not been tried before, and also giving ourselves this permission to just do what we feel is right for us, like for oneself, because there is this, as I said, this conditioning of this Virgo archetype, and Virgo is creating inconjunction to Aries. So there is this inconjunction which is making us feel inferior, the Virgo flavor, we're not good enough. And that's why we feel like, do I really deserve this? Because we've been conditioned for such a long time that if you do something for yourself, you're being selfish and you're not thinking of other people. But now with the South Node moving into sign of Libra, it's actually going to be, well, why should I live my life to other people's standards? You know, how is this going to make me happy if I continuously think about what other people want, about what other people are saying? And that's why there are these positive aspects to Chiron. As I said, today we have a Mercury in sextile with Leo, Mars, and Mercury is in Gemini in his rulership. So again, he's bringing forward this Gemini flavor, this Mercurian flavor, which is this need to see life from different angles. Like there is just no one way. There is not just one way to perceive reality. And this is very important because today is the day which is starting this solstice, summer solstice. So let's just see what's going on in the sky. And we have Mercury, which is still at the 29 degrees where Sun made the inconjunction. Pluto made the inconjunction to Sun because everything is, in the solar system coming towards the Sun. So Pluto made the inconjunction to the Sun. So there was this in order for us to, start this new direction, which we're trying to define what it is, we need to let go of this past, and we still don't know what, exactly that might be. Like, what are these aspects of ourselves that, we that don't serve us anymore? There are these blind spots. But Mercury making a sextile to Chiron is saying as well, you just have to trust your instinct. Also with the Mars being ruled, Mars being the ruler of Chiron and being ruled by Sun, which now is moving into Cancer, again is bringing us back to home, Cancer, home. That you need to trust your intuition, you need to trust your emotions, you need to trust your heart, because Leo is all about heart, our inner child. What is your inner child telling you? And as I said, tomorrow Mars will trine Chiron, who he is the ruler too, and that's even more profound because it's saying that once we heal this wounding with regards to, you're being selfish if you're trying to live a life your own way, right? Then when we heal that wounding, then it will be much easier to move forward, to take an action on this. What is my destiny? Like, what is my calling? Because so many times people desire to do something, but they go, but the people would laugh at me, or other people would reject me, or my friend would then not want to be my friend. So then for a lot of people, we stay imprisoned by our own mind and all these inner like a chatter in our head that is telling us, oh, don't do that, like that has not been tried before, or what will the other people think, all this chatter in our mind, our outdated belief system and the program that we are being run by, and that is then making us not even want to try. There are so many people that want to try something and they never even try, because before they even dare to try, they talk themselves out of it, because there is this insecurity that, oh, if I try something new, well, I'm just gonna fail. So let's not even try. Let's just stay here in this uncomfortable situation, because it's better the devil we know, right? But no, because like we've been experiencing the devil for a long time. This South Node in Scorpio is telling us like, no, it's time to let it go. It's time to go. And now with the Saturn being the ruler and is retrograde in Pisces, this is a very new flavor. Before Saturn was in Aquarius, being the ruler of of Pluto, and before that it was, it made a conjunction to Pluto in Capricorn and all that. But now the flavor is finishing. It's like it's in Pisces, it's dissolving. Like, no, these old definitions, they're not working anymore. And like I said, at the same time, I wrote here for myself that it's the lies that we tell ourselves, because this is another repeating theme which I'm coming across in my readings, that really we created this truth for ourselves, which are not even our truth. We just like heard them somewhere. Like we hear something, some information, and we go, oh, okay, this is the truth, okay? So we just adopt it, and then our life is perceived through that lens, which we adopt as our truth. And then that might not even be our truth. And that is something that might be keeping us in prison all our life. So now I know that we are entering the Cancer season, and I'm talking about Jupiter and Mercury, but this is very important aspect of it, because if we don't recognize with our conscious mind what is running our program, what is running our everyday reality, which is creating our definition of who we are, our identity, because like what we think makes us act certain way, and how we act is then reflected to us, like who we are, and all this. There is this like a stuck circle of repetition, and then what's being reflected back to us is then convincing us that what we're thinking and what we believe in is true. Because as I always keep saying, that whatever you believe, you find a proof for it. It doesn't matter what it is. Two people can believe completely opposite thing, and each of them will find a proof to confirm that what they believe is actually truth. So that's why it's very important to actually observe our thoughts and our beliefs, because they are running our life from the subconscious place. And now Pluto, which is the unconscious planet, planet of our subconscious, it's not unconscious, it's very conscious, but it's planet that rules our subconscious. We need to see what Mars is doing, because Mars is kind of like how this Pluto is consciously expressing itself, and Mars is in Leo. So this Pluto being back in Capricorn, like doing there this retrograde state, like going over what he already discovered, saying that, okay, well, there is more that we need to let go of this past, of this old definition of matrix, what was ruling our reality. And then we look at the Mars, and what Mars is doing. Well, Mars wants to go ahead. He wants to move forward, like, oh, okay, let's already go to this new future, and self-actualize and create the reality we want and all that. But then Sun rules Mars, and now Sun is in Cancer. So he's like, hey, slow down a bit. We're back in Cancer. We're back in the waters, where Mars was stuck for so long. And it was like, I don't like it. I don't want to sit with my emotions here, behind the kitchen counter. I want to move forward. And now Sun is in Cancer. So we say, hey, slow down. We need to feel into this. We need to see if our emotions are all in alignment with what we think we want, or what we think we want. Is it what we really want? Let's feel into it. And then I also put here compassion, because this is something that was popping up for me with regards to this last new moon being squared by Neptune. And this is another thing which I connect to this feeling of guilt and shame, because it's the Virgo Pisces axis, where the Virgo in its lower vibration, it wants us to be perfect and like, okay, well, I'm not good enough, let's try more, let's learn more, let's be better, let's do more. And then because it wants to become perfect, it wants to become this this unrealistic definition of perfection, which is like, what is it actually? What is it? What does it mean? And then we have this Neptune in opposition, which, yes, in a low vibration, again, it can cause confusion. It's lies. So that's why I'm saying, what are the lies we tell ourselves, what do we believe which is not even maybe truth, what is our brain telling us, this self-talk which might be completely damaging. And this Mercury now is trying to discover that, like, okay, let me research, let me find out what is it. And so with this compassion, that's the high vibration of Neptune. This compassion, forgiveness, healing. Both Virgo and Pisces are trying to help us to heal. And like I said, this is something which I felt that was also like very present during this last new moon in Gemini, because there was this square from Neptune, and there was this like, okay, well, I need to go and figure it out. And there are these two realities. One is the one of the past, or well, even multiple realities, because we're multidimensional being. So there is like this reality of the past, which I'm trying to break away from. There is this reality which I'm trying to visualize, that I want to create. And then there is this reality which I'm actually presently at, which is the only reality that is actually happening right now for me, because the only thing that's that you can experience is the now, the present moment. I mean, we're here right now. And that's why there is this need for compassion and forgiveness, because of this need for perfection that got us into trouble in the past, because it made us feel that, well, I'm never gonna make it, I'm always going to be imperfect, and that caused us this sense of guilt and shame, and like, okay, well, let's not even try, right? And that's why this Neptune is saying to us that actually it's okay, it's okay, you're doing your best. This is another thing. At every moment, even whoever we come across in our lives, and whatever wrongdoings they created in our lives, everybody is always doing the best they can, and everybody is a teacher. Everybody comes here to teach us something. And there is this need for compassion towards oneself and towards the other, because everybody once was born as a baby, and that baby wouldn't hurt anyone. So the fact that somebody one day becomes someone that will hurt someone comes from trauma. It comes from the environmental conditioning and stuff like that. So again, it's just like going back to this Leo, because we have all this activity in Leo with the moon currently, and moon conjuncting Venus, and tomorrow moon conjuncting Mars, and Venus and Mars being in Leo, and Venus starting her retrograde in Leo, and it will be there for a long time, until October actually. And this is very important. The Leo is very important because it's our inner child, and the inner child is telling us, it's communicating with us. Inner child is our heart, is the connection to the higher self. So the inner child is always trying to give us a guidance with regards to what is my purpose, what makes me happy, what gives me the sense of joy. And that's why, like sometimes, because we try to be so logical and always try to explain everything, and that just sometimes you just have to trust, you just have to trust. There is not always, and especially they say that if you have the logical explanation for anything, then it's your ego, it's your mind telling you, because the intuition doesn't need to give you an explanation. It's just the way it is. So that's why this sun now is going to Cancer, saying you need to feel into things again. And all these planets that are going retrograde, one after the other, literally, like the last one will be the Jupiter in September. It's telling us that, well, maybe it's time to go backwards a little bit, and to maybe question the things that got us to this point, and what did we miss? What did we miss that we need to go back to look at again, and then perhaps we need to make a new choice under the old circumstances, right? And then I put here, like, we need to check with ourselves how we feel, because in Cancer season is all about how I feel. That's how our intuition is telling us. Like, most of the time we are so disconnected with our bodies, and it's like, well, how do I actually feel right now? And what do I need? What do I need? Because we constantly try to just think and get busy, and then we are not even here. We are somewhere else doing something, and I'm as guilty as everybody else with that. So duality and perception. So this is again with the Gemini new moon, we just experienced this, which is interesting, that is actually only happened few days before this solstice, which is happening today. And this was kind of like prelude, like what is the energy for this upcoming solstice, which is the summer theme. And to me, it seems with all these themes that are coming up at the moment, this will be the time for inner connection, for inner work. Like, as I said, we need to go back, and we need to find out who did I identify as that is maybe not me anymore, and why did I think the way I think, and why do I believe what I believe, and what do I need to change, what do I need to correct course in order to move into this future? Because if things are not manifesting in our life, then there is something within ourselves that is blocking it from doing it, and that's usually our belief system. So I feel with this that's happening at the moment, and this sun shining into our house of Cancer, which is our home, our physical home for our spirit, and also our, it could be our home, it also could be our ancestor line. I know for many people there is a lot of trauma that comes from childhood, and maybe even trauma that is passed on in a family from one generation to another, and in that case this family constellation is something which is very helpful, which I experienced myself. And it gave me the permission to move forward with my life and with what I want to do, because before that I felt guilty. I felt, well, nobody else in my family is doing this, and my parents even think, you're gonna make a living with what? With astrology? Do you think anybody's gonna pay you for that? Like, this is something you should do in your free time. That's the paradigm of the past, right? This is not a normal job. Like, but what is a normal job? And look at the structure, look at the society, look at the, 2-3 years ago, all this safe and secure job, this Cancer Capricorn axis, the home and the safety and security of our job. Like, how did that fare up for us? A lot of people, including myself at the time, still working on a cruise ship, I lost my job, so suddenly this thing, which was my job and home at the same time, because you live on a cruise ship, I was living there for 6, 7, up to 8 months, each contract, that was my job and it was my home. And then suddenly unforeseeable circumstances happen in the world, and then that's all being packed away. And this is another thing which just came to me. If we too strongly identify ourselves with any of these labels, like, oh, I worked somewhere, so this is my job, so this is my identity. And this is many times which could cause depression for people. And I experienced this myself as well, like previously, before even working on a cruise ships, I was working somewhere else. And then when I became redundant, I became depressed, because suddenly I was identifying myself with the job, with that role, which is not who I am. This is not who you are. You are your I am is much more than these labels. You are not just your name and your nationality and your title and your job and any of this. That's not who we are. They are just the labels that are helping us to identify the experiences we want to have in this reality. And that's why, once again, I'm going back to this Cancer. This month, but it's the beginning of the summer solstice, so this is the flavor for the upcoming 3 months until we have the equinox again in September, which will be the prelude to eclipse season. So let's just stay with the Cancer for now. Cancer is your home, is your identity. Maybe we need to go back in the past, and we, like the reading I did for my client yesterday, that's exactly what we came up. That was the download I got at the end, and it totally hit the home. It hit the home because my client realized that what she's experiencing is literally a continuation of the women in her generation. So maybe we need to look back, Cancer, our ancestors, our roots. Like, why am I having these experiences? Why my mother had these experiences? Why my grandmother had these experiences? And why do I feel that I cannot have different experience? Because is this like some twisty sense of loyalty that because everybody in my family struggled, I have to struggle too? Because otherwise I'm like, not going to be able to fit in or something. I mean, I don't know. But with all this Mercury and Jupiterian energy being active and all these connections to Chiron, this to me is saying that we need to heal this wounding, individual and collective wounding, which is not making it possible for us to move into this new direction, into this having a brand new life, which is potentially different from everyone that came before you, anyone in your family, and doing it without guilt and shame, because this in conjunction to Virgo, like, okay, well, if I go in this direction, it makes me feel insecure. I don't know anything. Everybody in my family did something different. I've always identified myself as something different, which I have done and mastered throughout my life. And now suddenly I come to this dead end, this square by Neptune to the new moon in Gemini, which is saying about this need for breaking free. There is this crisis of consciousness that suddenly things are they starting to dissolve. They starting to have a meaning and a purpose for me. And now we seeking the new ways. We seeking this, like trying to identify, like, okay, what do I do from now on? How do I move forward? And there were all these inconjunction going on. I believe this new moon inconjuncting itself, this new moon inconjunct Pluto. I mean, the sun still was in conjunction with Pluto. It's, when it was moving into the sign of Cancer. And this is the blind spot, So we need to allow for this information to be presented to us, but it needs to be from the receptive place. Cancer, yin energy. Again, we are in a yin energy. There is this information coming from external, but I need to bring it in and process it. Does this resonate? This is the word of Aquarian age. Resonance. Does this resonate with me? And if yes or no, does this make me feel excited? Does this make my heart sing? Does it give me an inspiration? Is my inner child happy? Does it want to go out and play, or it go bored? Don't want to do that. This is same old. Don't want to do that. Boring. Just look at these new kids, right? Pluto Capricorns, kids born after 2008. Check them out. Try to tell them something, what they should be doing. They go, I'm not doing that. They know exactly what they want to do. Is this Capricorn, this structure and definition of reality. They know who they are. We are just figuring it out, our generations before, we are just trying to figure it out. But first, to me, it feels like we have to strip the layers of who we were, because it's not who we are anymore. The versions of who we were, they cannot go with us into the future, because the future is completely changing. With this Aquarian age, is the acceleration of evolution of humankind. And in order to allow myself to become these improved versions of myself, I need to be open and not afraid to let something else go. Because as I said, if you remain to be the same person, you're going to attract the same life. It's copy paste. So that's why a lot of people, including myself for a long time, are stuck in this reliving the same experiences over and over and over and over again, year after year after year after year. I can look at my parents' life, and it's exactly like that. Like literally every year I go to visit, it's like nothing changed. I'm like stuck. I'm like frozen in time. Capricorn, I'm frozen in time. Nothing has changed. So now Capricorn is the ruler of Pluto again. Pluto going retrograde. Capricorn is housing Pluto. The ruler is being Saturn, who is also retrograde. And Saturn made in conjunction to Moon today, the ruler of solstice, ruler of the sun entering the sign of Cancer. So what is this telling us? This is telling us there is maybe something we can't see, something we still don't know, something connected to the past, which we need to investigate so we can let it go. And the way to figuring it out is reconnection with oneself. That's why sun is shining onto Cancer house. Everything is showing that, okay, this in conjunction. There are these two in conjunction going on. This new moon and now sun to Pluto, which is our evolutionary potential, squaring the nodes, resolution south node, which is the past. Look at the past. What is holding you back? What is making you feel disempowered? And then the in conjunction between Saturn and Moon today, because Moon moves very fast. So there was just a moment for which it was valid. And this is again telling us, well, I need to find out. I need to figure it out. What is this definition of the past, my past identity, which I so become connected with. I kind of became so infused with the label that it created my identity. I thought that this is my identity, which created structure and definition of my life. And now Saturn is in Pisces, is trying to dissolve everything that no longer serves and holds a meaning, and called our old fractals back to oneself to become whole again, Pisces, so the new cycle can begin. And this is a continuation of the activation, because I believe the activation happened between the new moons in Aries, which we had two of. The second one was the solar eclipse. For me, that was the activation. And then this new moon in Gemini being squared by Neptune, our good friends, that is being the rule of Saturn. And Saturn and Neptune are going to have a conjunction before changing sign in 25 or 26. And this is important. This is important because this is what needs to happen before we can enter into the future, before the future becomes the present. before we can embody the Aries archetype fully and give ourselves permission to do so. So we need to feel into and discover, where do I feel stuck and why do I feel stuck? What makes me feel ashamed and what makes me feel guilty in order to move into this new direction, this Chiron in Aries. Chiron is being trined by Mars and then by Venus in 1 week. So is this follow your heart, follow the call of destiny, and you will find it. You don't have to know all the answers. Aries doesn't know. It's the first sign. It doesn't have any previous experience, but we know that which has passed is no longer serving. So slowly we are letting it go. And for the remainder of the year, while Pluto is still in Capricorn, we're going to become more and more conscious of the things that needs to be dissolved. And then as the nodes are going to move into Aries and Libra axis next month on July 17th, and then Pluto is going to trine them exactly on July 23rd, and the ruler of the South node, Venus, is going to go retrograde on the same day. And isn't it when the Chiron goes retrograde as well? Let me just double check again on myself. Yes, exactly. Chiron, the collective wound, is going to go retrograde the same day when Venus stations retrograde. And well, actually, yeah, Venus stations, so Pluto squares the node, Venus stations retrograde, and Chiron stations retrograde. And Chiron will trine Mercury as it will be doing so. So this is again taking us back to Mercury. Why is Mercury so important? Where Mercury is the messenger. It's bringing you messages from your higher self. So maybe we need to listen. And yeah, and then it's all about this Leo. What is your heart telling you? Listen to your inner child. So this is what I got, guys. So this is what I'm tapping into. I hope I was able to communicate it clearly, because there is a lot of thoughts coming back and forth. But as I said, there is a lot of repeating messages from my clients, a lot of downloads that are very similar, that are pointing towards the same thing, which is completely reflecting to me what is happening in the sky right now, which is this important to start questioning. Question how you think and why you think what you think and why you believe what you believe. Because that might be exactly what is blocking your life, yeah? These limiting beliefs, because we only can perceive reality through the lens which is representing our belief system. That's why this is all being Sagittarius archetype. Sagittarius, Jupiter, it's all the lens through which you see reality, and this is our belief system. So it's, like I said, it's taking us back to Jupiter being in Taurus, and that will be the Venus. Venus is the ruler of the North Node. She will become the ruler of the South Node when she moves next month into the sign of Libra. So Venus being the ruler of South Node and being the ruler of Jupiter is telling us the same thing. It's all about what we believe. And with the Gemini, we have the choice. What do you want to believe? Because a lot of people think, I need to see it first before I can believe it. Because look at the world. How can I believe it can be different when the world is showing me this? But we creating the world. The world is expression of us. It's not an accident. If enough people believe the world can be different, it would be. But because everybody believes something that we can see reflected in our reality. So our job, every one of us, is to tune within. What do you want to see in the world? And you have to become it. And then you will see it. But for that, we need to know ourselves, and we need to, I'm going again in circles. I'm telling you the same thing in every single video. We need to know thyself. You need to know yourself. You need to know what is important to you. And you need to observe your thoughts. Because what is my belief system? And why do I see it reflected in my reality? Because I believe it. So I need to change it. And then I have to give myself a permission to do so with Chiron in Aries, right? So anyway, guys, like I said, I'm going to leave it at that. As I said, I hope that this has made sense. But to me, these upcoming months and this summer season, it's all about tapping into yourself. What it is that you want to let go, what it is that you want to create, and shifting the way we think and watching what we believe. And if that which we believe is no longer a representation of who we are, then let it go. You are the creator. You create your reality. So it's up to you. So have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful summer. And find a home. Go back home, which is yourself. Find a way back home. Okay, much love. Bye.